Let's go.
All right, so we are taking a look at Paddy's Portage, and I'm joined by Spacespy, also known as
Hello.
Alfie. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Yeah, yeah. I hope you enjoyed the game. That's all I can really say.
All right.
Um,
So,
yeah.
you were the programmer on this project, right?
I was the programmer, yeah. I also helped out a little bit on art as well because the artist was a bit busy during the jam. Yeah, so mhm.
Okay.
I'd say I was the front runner, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you talk a little bit about your background in game development?
Okay, so I started when I was maybe about 12 years old. I'm now 14, almost 15. And essentially I kind of, it was lockdown. Everyone was just bored out of their minds and trying to find something to do with their life. So I got into game development, and I guess it took a while of, experimenting and kind of making things that, me now aren't very proud of. But yeah, now I'm at a point where I'm really kind of happy with where I'm at, and I've released a game on Steam and that's on consoles as well. And there's been this big indie journey that has really kind of boosted my confidence, and my game's gone on to win an award, and it's been a really like welcoming kind of into the game dev space in a sense.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
So, what was that game, by the way?
Now there's the game is Alien. It's 2D kind of action platformer.
Uh-oh. I just threw the crate up there, and I think it was supposed to land that red button.
Yeah, I just saw that you can press R to restart. That's
Okay. Oh,
it's annoying because it's only like a couple pixels, that a chance of it happening, but at the same time, people do end up being like that sometimes when they play their games. But yeah, I'm looking into fixing that. There's another issue as well. You know how the crate sometimes bounces when it hits the ground?
yeah.
That it should just stick to the ground, and it does it on my computer, but on a lot of people's it isn't. So I'm just trying to kind of fix all the. There's no bugs, I don't think, but there's definitely a few like uh, kinks to it all.
Well, yeah, of course, as is sort of to be expected with any game jam project. Like,
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, I spent about 20 hours on the last day because of time, and it really kind of it was like there's bugs, but for once I'm just not going to fix them until I'm a bit better, because I'm currently tired out of my mind. I'm still tired right now. Do you know what I mean?
of course, of
Because
course.
I went to bed at 6, 7 a.m. So yeah, it's kind of been, I've just spent the entirety of today just a bit run down, um, so that I can get back into a normal sleep pattern. But yeah, that's all I really have to say. If you have any questions, then I'm here to answer them.
Yeah, the 20 hour per day grind. That's crazy. What was the rest of your like? You know what? How about we just talk about your overall development experience? As like a day by day, how did things come together?
Oh, helps me better illustrate if I just go look at the bits real quick and then just play them back to myself.
Hmm.
But yeah, I kind of started off with like this. The vision of the game actually kind of really changed over the course of development, because when me and my artist, the musician was kind of like, because they only have Monday free, so it was kind of like, here's the game, compose for it if you want, and then do you get my point. It was kind of more for them, at least. It was more coming at the last minute, even though they were planned from the start,
Hmm.
in terms of like being part of the experience. But yeah, then I started off with like this little just cubes moving around on a screen, as you do with game development. And originally we're planning out this like top-down stealth game, with a pigeon because we thought carrier pigeon it's somewhat clever. But yeah, then we started importing more mechanics. You know, we've got the buttons in there that you've seen, the lasers which you're currently dying at.
Yep.
Um, the guards, the pipes. We got all those kind of mechanics in quite early on, and then about about actually that's a good point. No, yeah. About the morning of the second day, I woke up to see a load of art done. Not a lot of art, but a decent amount of art. So I ended up importing that. It wasn't decorated or but it's very much an improvement. So I started adding in like squash and stretch and those kind of effects. And then I kind of just experimented for a while, and ended up getting mechanics in more and really polishing the game up because I felt like that was kind of an important thing for me because I've never done like a good Luden Dare. All my Luden Dares have gone wrong, and I was determined to like make sure I had like a decently fun game. So I wanted to kind of find the fun first, and we did. And then it was only the like last day that we started getting in like the background art and the music started coming in, and I did the decorations on the floor and a couple of other tidbits as well. But yeah, I suppose at that point I spent a lot of the last day on like level design, and I didn't really have much time to fix bugs like I think a lot of other Luden Dare jammers usually do on the last day, because I was trying to actually get a decent amount of content in there that people would be able to enjoy. And yeah, I think I hit the mark in terms of game length, but yeah, huge sacrifice of time. Took me about 8 hours to finish all the levels, but yeah, and then that was it really. At that point, I just started making menus. Everyone else was asleep, and then that was it really. Yeah, resubmitted the game, and yeah, I think it came out decently good. I'm proud of it.
So this was made with oh wow, Construct.
Made for Construct, yeah.
So the from what I know with Construct, there are a lot of like pre-built behaviors. So how much of this was like custom-built platforming controls and camera controls versus what was available?
I think a lot of people paint Construct as a make a game button in a sense. Where like you press a few buttons and then the game is instantly made for you. And I've seen that come up a lot on some other Construct developer streams. I'm sure you've heard of Vimlark and some other content creators. And they usually get a lot for that. Construct, in a sense, is coding boiled down to the logic, in a sense. And there are pre-built behaviors, but to make them feel nice and be able to have them feel like a polished, complete game, you need to do a lot of changing to those behaviors, and you need to go and actually program some stuff to make to just make the game really at the end of the day. But yeah, Construct's good for weekend jams like this because you can get a relatively good playing game done by the end of the weekend, and I think there's a couple major hints here. Like I can see right now the box is bouncing around quite a bit, and sometimes it does feel like, and I'm sure you probably agree with this, it doesn't feel like it's aiming where you want it to. But yeah, I think yeah, yeah. Next question.
Sure, yeah. I guess the things that I noticed with the box is like, yeah, sometimes I try to tell it to like go somewhere and it's hard to know how the bounciness of it is going to react. Like, I suppose the really exhaustive thing you could do is create a projected simulation of where the arc of the throw is going to land.
Yeah.
But not exactly possible within the scope of a jam.
Yeah, I mean, we had kind of, again, because on my computer, because I have a 144, and this is one of the pain in the asses about making games for game jams sometimes. Obviously, I'm sure you know the term delta time, and that kind of becomes a bit of trouble to manage when you have a faster computer to everyone else.
Right.
So essentially, I'll try and explain the process here without trying to burn people's brains in chat. There's a collider on the bottom of the box, and when that collider on the bottom of the box hits the floor, it cancels out all the bouncing, and it just goes straight to hitting the floor. But I feel like sometimes it skips that, and then it just bounces instead. So I need to look into fixing that definitely, and I should hopefully be out when I'm feeling a bit better. But right now, it's all about kind of getting people like you to play it, and getting feedback, because at the end of the day, that's what Loop and Dare and other jams are for. So if you put your time into fixing bugs, you won't actually be able to enjoy what you've actually made in that time, which usually is more spectacular than the people do actually think. And there's something really special about that. I'll just let you do this again because
this seems like it's gonna be tricky. Yeah. So the intended behavior with the box then is that it's supposed to bounce off of walls, but when it hits the ground, it's supposed to stop.
Stop. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's done twice in a row there.
Yeah, that's what it's meant to be doing all the time, no matter the circumstance. But obviously, sometimes physics get a bit crazy, and I think if you just shoot straight up, sometimes it can kind of also do it. But yeah, there's a lot of complicated game mechanics here, which probably took up a lot of time. Lasers and the pipes, and they both took a lot of time to kind of program in a sense. And I'm not a programmer. That's not my main stick. My main thing is game design. But obviously, as an indie dev, you can just design games. But obviously, if you want to make a video game, sometimes you have to do it yourself, and that's important. But yeah, the inspiration from the game in general, it came from games like Celeste. The part, I don't know if you've played Celeste, but there's Theo levels. We're carrying around a box essentially, and I wanted to kind of replicate that feeling of having something venturing with you in a sense. And another inspiration was Portal with the puzzles, of course, and the buttons. I wanted to make a proper puzzle platformer because I haven't made one before. But yeah, those are my inspirations. Yeah.
Yeah, this part in particular is I think I know what I need to do, but it's just doing it is really hard.
Yeah. It's only one of those things where you've kind of got to focus on execution a bit. Because it's not just figure out the puzzle and then you kind of take it from there. You should have to kind of figure out the movement and kind of teach yourself how to navigate in a sense.
So my idea is to throw the box to the far side of the guy, jump over the guy, grab the box with the lasers over my head, and then
that's the correct answer. Yeah.
It's just a matter of actually
doing it. Yeah.
And figuring out when to go, because I have to do it. Oh, that's a bad jump. That's a bad bounce.
Oh, unlucky. You might still be able to salvage it. Oh, damn it!
No, not quite.
Able to.
It's hard to pick it up and throw it again in time. But that's okay. I'll just keep on trying. And in the meantime, can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind the game itself? Sorry, you talked through some of the level design inspirations, but just in terms of the playing as the pigeon character and
pigeon,
yeah.
Paddy is a real pigeon, World War II kind of savior for Britain, and honestly, I kind of came up with that while we were coming up with game names. But obviously, you're playing as a pigeon because of a carrier pigeon. And I thought, what is it of a carrier pigeon? What about a pigeon actually carrying something? And I think the idea kind of rooted from there. I know the artist definitely wanted to do like a top-down stealth game, but I kind of persuaded them into, going for a platformer because I thought it might have fit like the glide mechanic a bit better and the other things we wanted to do, really. Those feathers are going to start spreading all over the place soon. You've almost got it now. You've just got to stick to it, I suppose.
Well, it's just a matter of not dying in the beginning as well.
Yeah. I felt like the difficulty's pretty on point for leading there, but I also had a lot of like a mixed bag in terms of people's, skill as such with these kind of games. So it was hard to kind of judge after playtesting what. Sometimes it's even best when you're throwing the box just to go far right, and you might get a better launch like that.
Oh. If you do have an opportunity, so you mentioned that you've got some fixes planned, like for the box glider. Are you going to be like taking a look at? Have you had an opportunity to see anybody else play the game on stream yet?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, I've had a couple people play. A couple streamers and friends, and the game's got 150 likes on Twitter, and it's got enough ratings now for a score. So I've received plenty of feedback. It's just nice to get a bit more from different playing experiences at the end of the day.
Have any other people gotten stuck at this part?
A couple, but I don't think they've. I don't know how to say this without being rude. No, you just shoot far right there. Don't bother with the roof. Just like go really to the right next time.
I don't. It's not clicking. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Have you tried shooting more to the right? Because you're currently shooting very vertically, and obviously it's not getting much horizontal speed, is it?
Well,
and that's kind of what you need across this game.
If you just want it like over there.
Yeah, you could try that if you wanted.
But
and then what you've got, you can then float over and then.
I find that I'm just never able to put the crate where I want. Like, I would say 80% of the failures are because the crate didn't land where I want, because I just don't understand where it's going to land.
No, I know what you mean. And obviously, making a jump gauge is a task, definitely. But it's not an impossible one, of course. But I have to research how to do that first. But I did want to make more clarity on. Actually, that's a good point. I can tell you. This is quite embarrassing, but before the game had that, you hold down and you aim.
Mm-hmm.
It actually went back and forth the arrow, and you had a time when you shot it, and that would have been
like Yoshi's Island.
Some people. Yeah. So I think the mechanic with aiming's a lot more. People are a lot more able to kind of do what they want with that, but
So I pressed the X button, but the character didn't pick up the box. I must have been standing like just too far away from it for the input to register.
You could have actually just gone straight under there if you wanted, because obviously the laser was already colliding with the roof of the box, but that's hard to tell.
I wasn't sure whether it was looking at whether the character is actually holding the box for it to count.
It isn't, but it's never actually utilised in any of the levels. So it's not important. You can grab it up really quick, and that's what a lot of people do. Myself included.
Okay, finally. Oh my gosh.
Right done.
I figured that was the end of the game. It's a little pigeon.
Baby
oh
pigeon.
My goodness. That end part of the game was so much more difficult for me than it had, than obviously than it was supposed to be, right? Like,
there was never a point in the game previous to that when the guard and the laser are both in the same kind of section of sorts. So I wanted to make sure that interaction was in there before the game ended, and I thought it's decently challenging to do something like that, so I'll make it the final challenge. No, but yeah, that's Paddy's Portage. I'll be honest with you because I think that's kind of the whole point of an interview. In terms of the team and how that went, essentially what kind of happened was I was prototyping on the first day. Obviously, nobody else was doing anything because Ian, the artist, had school, which
Mm.
understandable, and Jax wasn't available till Monday, and he already made that aware, and that was all cool and fine. But then when Ian, actually finally, got back from school and finally was able to get onto a computer, he was just kind of playing video games a lot of the time. And then what he'd do is he'd leave it until like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then he'd like stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning making it, and then he'd be like, "I'm too tired, I'm gonna pass out." Um, so I do feel like he could have managed his time better, and maybe played games after he'd done work, because I'm also waiting to receive that work so I can implement it into the game. And I think communication and having a team is very important. But Ian did a good job of the art. I think I'm sure you'll probably agree playing it. But yeah, I just wish we had more time to do more things. And Ian was helping me out with some of the programming stuff because I suppose it was a big task and whatnot. But he'd agreed to a list of things that I've given him, and then he'd only complete half of it. And that's why on the last day I was spending, stupid lengths of time making what I was making. So he did good, but I can't help but think what could have been if I think the game would have been the same, but I just would have had more time to less stress, because I only submitted about 10 minutes before the deadline. But
Oh, jeez.
yeah, enough chatting. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I do understand, like, and it's one of my biggest reservations with working on teams in general. Like, if I'm at a workplace, like during the day when I'm doing game development, like there's a much more clear delineation of like what is my responsibility and what's other people's responsibilities. But when
Yeah.
you're just like a bunch of friends working together on a game jam, I mean, it's a little like the
Iffy.
atmosphere is a little more casual, and people think that they can just work at their own pace. They're not always keeping track of the fact that, like, in your case, you were waiting on some of these tasks to complete. Like you, and you not only were
Yeah.
like you being kept waiting, but then you had an expectation of what you were going to do within X amount of time. You were budgeting your
Yeah.
time, and then expecting that somebody else was going to be taking their share of things. And then when that fell through, I'm sorry that the burden fell to your shoulders. Believe me, I've
Yeah.
been there. I was in a university class where everyone had to make a section of a game, and I was like, okay, put me down as the programmer, because
Yeah.
because I know that if I'm the programmer, then I can fix the game and make it work in case other people don't do their fair share. And everyone was
Yeah.
still
Totally.
responsible for doing some share of the game. And one person sent me their chunk of code for the game, didn't even compile, like had multiple compile errors in it.
Oh God.
But of course, I knew that they were going to. I knew this person and how irresponsible they were. So I had just
Yeah.
preemptively scrapped their section of the game and expected, like, rewritten it to work without it. But
That was the
yeah,
other thing as well. I will say. There was a lot of like how do I say this? There was a lot of mm, he kind of like offered to do you want me to fix this? Do you want me to add this? And it's like I'm the programmer, right? I can do it when I have the time, and we're not in any. We are in a rush, obviously, because it's Ludum Dare. But at the same time, that's my responsibility, and I'm gladly going to take that responsibility. And sometimes it felt like he stepped in when he clearly didn't have the time or needed to. And I feel like if I did let him step in, the art wouldn't have been nearly as completed as it is. So I suppose that's my point there. But and not to say he was a bad teammate, of course, because he wasn't. He you can see it. He did a lot of good work. But I just feel like communication could have been better. And, we could have shared the work a bit better. Jax, on the other hand, Jax was amazing. Jax, sensory variations for when you're scoping, sensory menu music, sensory, all sorts of goodies, and I mean, they kind of told me the time they have and what they can commit to, like a week before the jam. So it was a lot easier to plan out, musical scope in a sense, in that regard. But yeah, I just feel like these kind of things happen, and they aren't too avoidable in jams like Ludum Dare, and you've kind of got to confront them sometimes and deal with them, and I think that's really important. So yeah, either way, I enjoyed my time working on this. It's one of my best weekend jam games yet, and I'm really happy about that, because I think making a game in a weekend is a stupidly hard challenge, and there are a lot of people that do it, but having that passable product at the end that you can be like, I made this weekend, I'm decently happy. That's a hard thing to achieve, especially for people like me that might not have pride in their work, but maybe not gush over it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and only properly treat their work as such when it's actually good. So yeah, I'm glad I made this, and because I'll be honest with you, I've done Ludum Dare since 48, but I did 48 and 49. Both of the games came out horrible. 49 was even unplayable as much. So it was almost kind of like I've always been put off Ludum Dare since then. Past 2 years, it's been very dodgy thing for me, because who'd want to do something that you've not done well 2 times in a row. But I'm glad I took the step to kind of work on this, and come out with a product that I'm happy with. Sengi in chat, yeah, I'd definitely say the hardest step is to start, because obviously when you're prototyping mechanics, it's very hard to kind of see what the end result is going to be. So it's very kind of you struggle to have hope in what you're making, and I think once things do start to come together and mechanics start interacting, and you can kind of see the game build up, it's then you kind of get a bit more motivation. That initial motivation is so hard because you have nothing to back it up with that, and what step you mean, like idea phase, or like starting game development in general, Sangi?
Yeah, the wall that I'm
Oh
going
yeah,
to
and
make.
obviously
Yeah.
attempt making a game, and obviously that's hard as well, because you know my first proper game, um Construct's really easy to start out with. Actually, it's not like Unreal or Unity, where you've got to learn all these different you know things, like um you have to learn Visual Studio, you have to learn C Sharp, or at least some people have to learn C Sharp. You have to learn the Unity editor, and with Construct, I think I definitely have like a good start. And because Construct it is a known engine, but it isn't on a wider scale compared to some engines. And admittedly, I'm now at a point where I'm like, yeah, I want to start learning engines like Unity so I can make better games. So that they're not better games, but the kind of games I want to make. And yeah, I think even starting out with Construct, it was still very hard, because I was only 12 when I started, and you know what 12-year-olds are like. They haven't even learned too much maths yet in terms of actual complicated stuff. So I think it's one of those things where you've kind of got to be brave and don't be afraid to start small, because obviously, this game's got weekends big, but my first game jam games and projects in general, they weren't big. They were just a couple levels and a simple mechanic that maybe like a shoot 'em up or something, and I think it's important to kind of not let your dream game ambitions, especially in a game jam, get to you too much. And I think game jams should be less about those dream projects and more about, coming up with something you would have never thought of before, and doing something clever with that. Yeah, you should just be able to get that box there. Yeah, you have. But yeah.
Well, I think that it's like everybody has different expectations when they're coming into a game jam, right? Like some people are coming here just to learn. Other people, like, they don't care if it's finished or not. Other people do care and they want something that's finished because that's important to them. And other people are here for the ratings. Other people are here for so on. The list goes on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like as Sangi mentions, another angle, jams are amazing for connecting with like-minded creative
Social
people.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I've met loads of great people through game jams, and creators that I'm now, talking to. Oh, look at that laser!
Yeah, so whoa, there.
It is very swingy right now, and it is very broken.
Oh, that's not possible.
It's impossible. Yeah, I don't know how I don't know how to comprehend that, but bugs happen, and you should not be ashamed of them.
Oh, and it's fixed itself now that we respawned, so
yeah, it should do. I think it's just a good thing. Actually, on this level, I tried putting 6 lasers next to each other, and it just did that pretty badly. But yeah, I think I know what that probably is happening, but it's not a major problem. I think I know how to fix that. But yeah, social aspect is really important to me because I think that's the real beauty of game jams, and I think I've seen a whole range of games just, so far. I've rated about 30 today, and some have been really kind of prototypes and games that creators have kind of made to think about things and try and improve their skills, and then some people have made these really Fallout games, but there's no better one, because at the end of the day that prototype might have been really thought out and really considered in terms of game design and what's actually included in it, and even if it isn't, there's still something special there that I think people should be recognizing.
Oh, of course.
No, yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of different, there's a lot of merit to just anybody who is working to build something and participate in this community event, and
so I think if you've entered Ludum Dare at any point in time, huge props to you, because it's a hard game jam. I'd say it's the hardest out there, in my opinion. I mean, obviously there's harder ones, Try Jam and other not even Try Jam, because Try Jam's 3 hours. You usually skate for 3 hours if you're smart about it. But I'd say it's one of the hardest because Ludum Dare has this big name to it. It's one of the biggest game jams on ever, and I think people see this pressure a lot of time with Ludum Dare.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to let go of that and understand you've got a weekend and you've got to really, appreciate and take note of that, I think that's really important, and I'm glad more people kind of appreciate that and then go ahead and make these, intricate, cute little games that, can be picked up and enjoyed for a couple minutes, and yeah, I quite like that.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot I think a lot of the time for me as well, I tend to, those kind of games stick to me quite a lot because, doing something really clever and I'm like, how did they think this up? Honestly impossible. And at the end of the day, we're all humans and we all have brains and we can all think of these crazy ideas. And I think if you can somewhat make them work, there's a real beauty in that.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm almost seeing that longer jams are harder than short ones because you can't keep the focus for 2 weeks straight. You tend to bleed a lot of time. Yeah, I think the thing that's nice about longer game jams is that there isn't an expectation that you're going to use the entirety of the time, but it does make it more
Yeah,
difficult to allocate your time. Because
yeah,
if you have a 7 day long jam and you think like, okay, I'm gonna make a game that takes 7 days to make, like, no, absolutely you won't be able to. But if you think that, okay, I've got a 7 day jam and I'm gonna spend the weekend and then maybe a couple odd hours here or there on weeknights, then you're probably got a more realistic expectation of scope. If anything, it gives you the opportunity to spend that like first chunk of time making the game, then you put it out there, get some feedback, and then do a little bit of polish before submitting it at the end.
yeah. I think I've done a couple like week long, 2 week long jams, and it's definitely one of those things where like you've got to kind of consider um obviously I know some people you can always believe some people will take all this time, but they won't because if you spend 2 weeks straight making a game, I think that's going to take a huge toll on you. It'll take a huge toll on anyone. And I think a lot of people do kind of consider I've got 2 weeks and I can make anything I want at the end of the day as long as if it's the theme and restriction and whatever else is included as part of the jam. So I've just got to really think about what everyone kind of has to think about. What time do they have and what time do they want to spend, and it's your body, it's your mindset, and it's what you want to do that you should take into account.
And I think that everyone should be taking it into account, like trying to find a healthy balance for the game jam, like not just. I keep managing to trap this guy in such a terrible spot here. Everyone should be trying to make sure that they do get a full night's rest and do eat meals on time. Like, a game jam should never be this like sprint. It might be a marathon, but not a sprint, right? Like, you shouldn't be
Yeah,
exhausting yourself and doing getting into I'm not saying bad
yeah.
habits, but you know what I mean, like
Mm.
just doing things that are unhealthy to try and
Oh,
force yourself through.
that is my only gripe with Luden Dare. Like seriously, um, I think it can be treated like a sprint, and it's like the maximum for a sprint, if you know what I mean, to a lot
Yeah.
of people. And I think going 3 days without properly eating yourself, feeding yourself at a regular time, and I know some people do look after themselves during Legion Dare, but those kind of people, they have a better experience, but they might not have a better game at the end in terms of I don't know, like ranking and what some people do care about in terms of Legion Dare and what they want to come
Hmm.
out with. But I mean, there's a lot of expectations of Legion Dare, and a lot of them do involve having to make sacrifices, and that was a theme for 1 year for Legion Dare, wasn't it?
Oh,
um,
man. Um,
yeah,
7 days would be
that's
the limit of how crazy I could go. To arrange that with family time and other things would be nigh impossible. I mean, a 3 or 6 hour jam
yeah.
could
I've
be a
I've had to
sprint.
ignore everyone,
At a certain point, you're
but
not
at some
helping
point
yourself
you're
by
not.
sprinting. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like,
Yeah,
there are always ways you can kind of mitigate the time commitment in the jams. Like, often when I know that I'm going to be sprinting for or jamming for an extended sprint, then what I'll try and do is like make sandwiches ahead of time, talk things through with my partner, and ask if she's okay with like heating up the leftovers for me and bringing stuff so that I have
yeah.
the again with this little patrol bot guy.
He's a bit annoying, Yenny, I know. If you get him trapped in the corner. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the bouncing off the blocks. Ian suggested it, but and I thought, yeah, that sounds quite clever at first. It's a good interaction with the main mechanic, and you kind of want to have those kind of clever interactions, like like the pipes and the laser, because obviously at first it's just like, oh cool, I can carry around this block, and then later on when you see you can do more with that block, it's very yeah, it's very interesting, I think. Yeah.
I think that
Oh,
what, like, in general, if there are times where it's important to, oh my god, again. If there are times where it's important to trap the guard, but I don't think it's ever a thing that you expressly use in the level design.
I mean, obviously, trapping the guard, at the end of the day, you trap the guard, but you need to go and pick up the box again. So, some people might ask themselves, what was the point in that?
If you had more than one box, I can imagine it being a more functional mechanic.
I know what you mean, yeah. I mean, I thought about more than one box, but now I realise, you aren't delivering anything at that point, and it's kind of like, I feel like having to drag around one box might be a bit more interesting and a bit more different compared to a lot of other games. So, I just went for that, I suppose.
Yep. So I think that in terms of actual feedback on the project itself, I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
the level design is like quite well done. Like by and large, there are a few things that, like that one challenge
Could
that
be
I was
better.
getting. Well, just in particular, the one challenge that I was getting stuck on the most often was, I would have put that either closer to the start of the level, and that's like normally like your intuition says like, oh, it's the final challenge on the final level, like let's put the hardest thing at the very end. But just
But when they lose it,
because
they have to do like the stuff before.
exactly, so every time you fail at it, it means you have to just do it over again, and that can get kind of weary. This part here, was it part of the plan to have to like bounce it off the wall? Because it seems like it's the easiest way to do that.
Yeah, it was the plan, yeah. It isn't made obvious because you're never doing it before, and introducing something a bit more technical at that later stage, without it being tutorialized is very, unexpected, I think, for a lot of people. But, if you're bouncing off walls, you'd think that'd be quite early introduced, but I thought it'll make a cool little section. I just saw that.
Yeah. Just gonna give that a restart there.
Level design's hard, especially on like a deadline, because you can't always have the same mindset, especially when mood is changing, hours are going by. It's not like you can just do one level every single day like you can with a full game.
Yeah.
You've got to do a sprint in terms of level design, and that's hard, trying to make them feel consistent and all a bit fair. But I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people do quite well at level design, and
Well, if they have a
that kind
dedicated
of
level
thing.
designer like as part of the team, right?
Alright, yeah, they can definitely get away with that. Then levels would be great, but when you've got someone solely doing that, because me and Ian were going to split up the level design, half 50-50 each, but I had to do all late instead, and obviously that took up a lot of my day. So I quite enjoyed making all the levels, because obviously you can kind of make a more consistent difficulty curve. But yeah.
I think that is very important, that there is like a unified vision behind the levels, because otherwise, as you said, like you can end up with these situations where like maybe somebody really likes the mechanic of bouncing the platform, the box off of walls, and then someone else comes back and says, oh, I didn't introduce that at all in my levels. Like it's going to feel weird to have this mix of levels that are like technical and other levels that are a bit more about just the jumping and treating it more like a platformer. Like it really depends if you have a team that's experienced working with each other, and if there is that, as you said before, the communication of like, oh, I'm going to make levels that focus on this mechanic, you can make levels that focus on that mechanic, and that way there's going to be a good variety of things in the game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think the main thing that would be neat to see in the game was if the sort of mechanic of tossing the box. did have that like predicted spot that it was going to go. And
Yeah, like a little like Angry Birds or something, just kind of like a little like not trail but predicted direction to kind of help people gauge a bit more where they need to land.
the other thing
I
that,
didn't have to.
yeah.
You go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say the other thing that might save you some headaches is if you just sort of snap it to a grid so that the possible positions that the box can land on are always aligned with a grid position.
I know what you mean. Yeah, and obviously that would still look quite smooth with the swash and stretch and whatnot. It just kind of I'm sure that can be communicated quite well to the player. Without it looking too coded in or robotic, because at the end of the day when you're making a physics game like this you don't want it to feel very machine-like, but at the same time you also want to make it feel very valid and fair to the player. That's a hard balance, I think, for a lot of puzzle games that revolve around platforms.
Yeah, and that way you could start thinking about some more like puzzle-ish applications of where you throw the box, because if you can get that precise angle of knowing where it's going to land, and also combine that with the precision of the like possibility space of where the box can land, then you end up having the ability to like, oh, I know I'm gonna make like I'm gonna trap the guard here, and I'm gonna move underneath the laser here. Like it might involve like creating new elements, and as to whether like the trapping the guards ends up being a thing, like it seems more often than not it's just getting me killed, so I wouldn't say it's necessary.
Yeah. This might be a bit I don't know how to put it with me, but honestly my favourite part of the game isn't even one part that I worked on. I think for me it's probably the music, so what's your thoughts on that?
The music's a really great fit. Like it's got I don't know how well I would describe it like fitting the vibe of the game, because the visuals are like, there's a nice consistency to the palette, but I don't entirely know what I'm looking at. Like there's these sort of like cyber mushrooms in the ground and these little like open flames and then kind of a cityscape background. Like it's all visually cohesive, but at the same time I can't tell exactly what it's meant to represent.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's very much kind of like, this weird cyberscape, but there's no explanation for it because world building is a whole nother layer on its own, and I mean obviously making cohesive the tile maps isn't not tile maps, and backgrounds and the rest of it isn't a hard job, but obviously at the same time when you consider how split up everyone's work is and whatnot,
But I think the most important part is that because of that simple like visual cohesion, like I didn't really question it. I was like, oh yeah, it all fits, it all works. So it's I wouldn't say there's anything I wouldn't say there's anything wrong. It might have earned some bonus points on the arbitrary rating scale if it had managed to like look a little more of a piece.
I do think an important part of a game's identity is its colours, and I think a lot of games can have like 1,000 colours, and it won't speak as much to me as it will 8 or 16. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Sangi, I didn't want to ignore your comment there. I like the box throwing. If it were to iterate on this design, I would work on making the throwing fluid, allow for more agility. Yeah, so
I completely agree.
I think the ability to freely flow, like you end up with the possibility of different designs, right? But if you know that you can like jump and throw the box directly beneath you, like if you jump and hit the throw button, then you'll okay, I'm just noticing that if you just sort of mash the button, you do throw the box directly up. But if you had some sort of prediction of knowing like, oh, this throws the box forward and this throws the box straight down, then you can
I'll be back in a moment. I'll be like 2 seconds.
Yeah, no problem. I'll just quickly mention, hello, Bad Cop. I see you're taking a look at the queue. It's not very long. We've got a
I'm
good
sorry
number of
about that.
submissions. All good, all good. So we'll be able to get to your game immediately after Sangi's. We've got plenty of time left in the stream today. So thank you for submitting. I'm looking forward to playing it.
Despite the fact my game is buggy, I do think there's this weird excitement for me. I think, despite being tired at 6 o'clock in the morning, having finished up a trailer, promotional assets, and all that, nice little extras that can be done rather quickly if you already have the stuff done that you need to make it. I think even at, when I was playing it for the last time before I went to bed and Loot and Dare was over for me in terms of making the stuff, there was this really good feeling for me, and the game wasn't perfect, but obviously no Loot and Dare game will ever be, because Loot and Dare isn't about perfection, it's about printing and making something that you can look back at and smile at, I think, and you can connect people with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that you still need more time to recover. So as much as I've really enjoyed our conversation, I also don't want to keep you. So
Oh
how
yeah,
about
that's
we
perfectly fine.
wind things down?
Have you?
And
Do
sorry.
you want to finish this last level? Because that way you've done it 4 times round. And
Yeah, 4 times through. Sure. Well, not now. Not this way. That's not a good. Not good where that box landed. If anybody has any questions they'd like to ask, let's take this last opportunity to get those in. And in the
yeah, I'd
meantime,
love to answer.
if there are any other projects that you'd like to draw attention to, like you mentioned the game on Steam, or any other social media platforms you'd like to plug, then please
Oh,
do
yes.
make note of that.
Let me get the link. Yeah, my game, Eglian, it's on. I might post links in chat.
Yep, go ahead. And also, El Stragoon, thank you for the raid. Welcome to the stream. How was your stream? Watch me just not be able to complete the last level here. Oh. Great to hear. Great stream. Yeah, it's been good. We've just had a good number of people on the stream. Nice mix of interviews and just regular feedback. We've still got a little bit in the queue ahead of us. We're just getting through Paddy's Portage, and then we've got Sangi and Bad Cop's game up after that. So looking forward to it. Couple mixes, a good mix of people who are new to the stream and some regulars as well.
So what I posted in chat is Eglian. It's I made it last year. I made it between March and August, and just about a month ago it got picked up by consoles, Penguin Pop Games, and they helped port it to consoles, and that's been a huge honor, really. And then
I think I saw Vinmark playing this.
Yeah, Vinmark played it live. I got him to play it, yeah.
Nice. Well, congratulations. How's that experience been, getting the game on
It's
console?
been amazing. The process has been amazing. It kind of started out like I made this game for a game jam, then it won beginner's best. I got a trophy for doing that, and then at which point I was like, oh, I want to take this a little bit further, so I took it a little bit further. A few weeks later, this thing pops up. It's called BAFTA YGD. I enter it into that. I don't think about it. About 2 months later, I get contact saying I'm in the finals. UK's British best young game designers between 10 and 14. 10 to 14, and that was kind of mad, because it was like, so I'm one of the best for my age, and then there was a good 10 of us, right? So then they have the ceremony, and I'm the one that won it, and that that was crazy at that point. I was like, why me? And then at that point, Eglian got picked up by consoles. It's been showcased at all sorts of events. It's been showcased at some game fests. It's it's gone and really kind of I'll be honest, it's earned me quite a bit, not a huge amount of money, but definitely enough to kind of like push me to keep going, and help support my family, and that's really important to me because that's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of release a commercial game.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, Egglin's a close game to my heart. It's got a story that means a lot to me, and it's got characters, and it's got fun gameplay, and that's all I really wanted out of a commercial game. And I think I think looking back at it, I can make Eglin in a couple of weeks now if I really wanted, because obviously we improve as game developers, but I think the fact it's almost been a year now, and seeing it like how it is, it's really kind of pushed me quite a bit, because I want to make more games like that. I want to keep making games that people buy and they enjoy, and maybe they get something out of it that they can take and maybe apply to their own projects, or apply as a gamer maybe. And I think that matters to me because it's not just about sales. It's more about kind of resonate with people, and making games that I grew up with that I wanted to make. And yeah, that's everything really, just kind of out there existing.
Awesome. I mean, yeah, huge congratulations to you for that. Like, maybe at some point we can um, do a separate interview if I try out Eglian,
Like
but
that. Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see
I'd
what
love
the
that. I'm following, so I'll probably check back from time to time. You've got me on Discord as well, so
yeah.
keep in touch is all I can say. I've really appreciated you trying out the game, and giving feedback, and that means a lot to me, and I've learned a lot from the conversation that we've had. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you. I mean, it's I I sort of end up with some different games where sometimes I feel like yesterday, just for instance, looking back at the schedule here, when I was playing
Yeah,
Rogue and Royal, I had a lot to say in terms of feedback, and just because there were a lot of little things that I figured like, oh yeah, you could if you could tweak this and you can tweak that, and there's a lot of easy feedback to give for this one, for that one.
yeah,
Paddy's Portage is a little more difficult to give feedback on, uh, just because sometimes it's hard to give feedback on games where they are so technically complete. And I could say, like, oh, I might have designed the levels differently because I have certain
yeah,
expectations for how I would design a
yeah,
level versus how you would. And it's just about creating a different experience. It's not to say that one
yeah.
is objectively correct or not.
There's I think with a lot of game jam games that are technically complete. I think you know um I think either a lot of the feedback you can give is obvious, like we said with the boxes
Hmm.
bouncing and that kind of thing. That's all kind of stuff that gets fixed over time, and it gets updated. And then, like you said, with things like level design, that's always things people can change and adapt. But again, it's always subjective. And I've seen people that have got through with this game with only dying a couple times. So yeah, I think people's experience with this has been very different. And obviously, I don't get that a lot. A lot of my jam games are very everyone kind of plays the same, and this has been a lot more different for people, and that's been interesting for me to take on board. But yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well, whether it's this or a future version of this project, a future jam release, or maybe an interview about Eglian sometime down the line, yeah, I look forward to having the opportunity to chat again in future.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Also, thank you for having me, and doing this, because I don't see many channels that interview developers. Usually, it's just like they play the game, they say a few things, and then that's it. On to the next one in the queue. This feels a lot more personal. It feels a lot more kind of like you do actually care about what you're saying, and you're not trying to just get viewers in for uh, free viewers that want to stick around to have their game played. And the fact that you have that appreciation to come on Discord and call developers and talk to them, I think you should be proud of that, because it's very very cool. I think.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, you're absolutely on the money in terms of like, I think about because I've done the whole rigmarole of like making a game for a jam, trying to get it onto people's streams and whatnot, and I think about what I did and didn't like about that process, and
Yeah,
I want to have the connection with viewers. Like, I at first I tried out just doing the streams and like I would get what I call the locusts, were just the people who like have never interacted with my chat before, just kind of like don't read the instructions, just kind of show up, drop a link, and then vanish. And it's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
I'm not going to try your game because it's the what's meaningful to me is the
you just want,
conversation.
yeah, definitely kind of
Is
getting that, bounce
Yeah,
back and forth. And I think obviously some people just want ratings and, do what you want. That's your way of jamming. But, I think for me, like you said, like we both said about, social connection, that's kind of what game jams are about. It's a lot of the time for a lot of people, including myself. And I think that's, again, important.
yeah, absolutely. So that, and it's the same. It's the reason that I have the schedule, that I try to be flexible. I try to reach out to people and say like, hey, it's your turn coming up, because I don't want people to feel like they are like, if people are here watching the stream, it's because they're enjoying it, not because they feel chained to like, oh no, if I leave, then they won't play my game. It's like,
Oh, yeah,
well,
definitely.
that's the worst. That's the worst feeling, is that having being like held prisoner just to and it's an exchange of value, right? Like for some people, like
Yeah.
streamers, I'm not trying to say that that's not fair of them, and for people who say like, oh, pay $5 and I'll put your game at the top of the queue, like that's well within their right as streamers. Like this is how they make their living, this is how they pay
Mhm.
their bills. So it makes sense that they have to find a way to monetarily compensate that. Like I do the same thing. I say that if you subscribe to the channel, then you can book a time specifically for when I'll play your game. But with
Oh,
Ludum
yeah.
Dare, there aren't so many people playing, submitting their games, that's been necessary. Although I did get a few people doing that as part of GMTK. But a lot of people will just subscribe
Yeah.
using like their Twitch Prime thing or whatever, just because it's like they had a good conversation, they appreciated the feedback that I gave, and it's not
Oh, yeah,
just meant to be
definitely.
an exchange. It's not like I'm doing this with the expectation of that. It's just I'm here giving the advice. If you think it was helpful and you want to reciprocate in kind, that's cool. If you want to pay it forward and just help somebody else out, it all comes back around in this big
Yeah.
thing we call life. So there's no obligation, no expectation.
I agree, and it's and I think for me as well, I don't stream all too often, but when I do, I love being able to, give chat what they want and help them in in their journey of because I think a lot of people who are doing game development, they definitely kind of maybe aren't around the right people and they aren't getting the feedback they deserve, and because they're still starting out, they're still learning like
Mm-hmm.
what's good and what they should improve with games. And, they can obviously stick to that kind of mindset and the things they're learning in the future. But when a lot of developers aren't getting that, I feel very bad about that because that they deserve it. Everyone deserves feedback at the end of the day, even if you've made something in a couple of hours for Luden Day. You've still made something, and you've still made something that is playable and can be given. It's something people can take with them, and people deserve that, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in the creation, in the art that's put into it. I mean, it's. I know that there are some people who like invest a lot of time into these things. Like it's hard to make a game and not just. It's hard to make any kind of art and not be heavily invested in the outcome, right?
Yeah.
So for games especially, like that's something that I understand because I make games myself. But making games is often involves creating visuals, involves creating music, involves creating writing. So there's a lot of other like pieces of art that people talk about the writing process. They talk about the artistic process, and I can identify with that in
Yeah.
a lot of ways because I have just this little bit of insight from the games that I make. Not the music part. I'm not good at making music, so
um. Yeah, I've done a lot of it solo before. And I've even composed for someone else's commercial game before. Not like something I do like commissions or anything. I did it for free, and I did it because I wanted to take something away from that as an experience. And I think I think it is good to learn a bit of everything. I know a lot of people stick to what they know and they want to get really good at it, and I think that's also a very good skill to have. But at the same time, I feel like kind of at least dipping your feet into things that maybe you aren't too comfortable with in game development, it can pay off quite a lot because I've been experimenting with a new art style lately for my next commercial game, and obviously I won't spoil anything for that. But yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that before, but I decided I'm going to try something a bit different, and if it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well. And I know there's a lot of pressure of game jams, and a lot of people do feel like they have to kind of stick to what they know. And it's a bit of a shame because I feel like game jams should be about experimentation.
I think that they try to encourage that, like hence the whole idea of only announcing the theme at the last possible second, so that it's a way to kind of like force people to be honest, because it's like, oh, if you don't know what the theme is going to be, then you can't possibly start developing the game. But
yeah,
sometimes you get people. Sorry?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that sometimes it results in people like caring a little too much about the theme and just saying like,
yeah,
not sort of regarding the work on its own merits, just being like, oh, you didn't make a very creative use of the theme, so I didn't rate you well. It's like, well, I still made the game within the scope of the jam. Like, isn't that really the most important thing? So
yeah, I was watching a few dev streamers on the weekend that I'd never even heard of before, and now actually follow them, and they follow me, and it's quite nice because I've met new people now that stream. But I think especially because I was watching some of them since the start and the end of the jam, all the way through. But I know for some people it's definitely kind of like here's like all my ideas. I know the theme hasn't been announced yet, but I'm gonna pop them here anyway. And I mean, again, as well with Ludum Dare, it's quite interesting. Obviously, the final round has a list of all the potential themes.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people like to start with that, and I think it's an interesting process. But obviously, you can't guarantee anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I've done that as well, where like I've looked at the themes on the last day and thought like, okay, if this is a theme, I make this game. If this is a theme, I make this game. If this is a theme, I don't participate this year because I don't really have a good idea for that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the comment that Sangi makes here about learning a bit of everything definitely pays off. You're not crippled by the fear that it won't make it if someone leaves. That's very true.
Yeah, that is true. Because again, if you don't make it, then that's your decision. It's nobody else's. The fate, only your mind decides that. Fate doesn't choose anything for you, and I think that's quite nice. Being in full control, and I'm not a control freak, but I'm definitely I like I like knowing that I'm able to put this where I want.
I guess the main reason I would say that I don't let myself get surprised by the theme is because there's a very small subset of game ideas that I'm interested in pursuing. Like, I don't find games fun to work on from the perspective of like, oh, put anything in front of me and I'll have a good time making it. It's like, no, I know what I like about games. I know that there are certain puzzles, certain like platforming, like certain genres that I enjoy more than others. So if I can find a theme that sort of naturally works with that, then I'm more inclined to actually participate. And otherwise, I'm just not going to bother. And it's increasingly been the reason that I'm not participating in game jams anymore, is because I feel like those kinds of games, those kinds of experiences, it's not that I can't make them in a limited time frame. It's that I don't like if I can make a game in 20 hours, that's great, but I can't, I don't want to do that 20 hours all in one sitting. I'd rather do it spread out over multiple weekends, and I'd rather take the time to let the ideas gel and so on. So I still want to like spend game jam amounts of time making things, but without necessarily participating in game jams. So have to see how that goes.
I think for me now, it's kind of been like I told myself. I think that's just like a cycle for me. There's making a commercial game, learning new skills, and doing game jams. I think I'm starting to kind of get a bit out of that game jam state now. I've learned a lot from these recent game jams that I've been doing. Well, not too many, but it's a decent amount.
Yeah.
Game jammers would do. And I've took away a lot from that. So I think now it's definitely about kind of learning some new things, getting some more insight, and then hopefully going to make another second project soon. Because I think when you've made the first, you want to make the second even more, because there's this kind of like rush to it then, like, oh my god, I can make like a better commercial game now, and it'll be so good. I have that opportunity laid to me, and you may as well take it at the end of the day with that kind of thing, because it's a cool feeling.
Absolutely.
If you are honestly going to beat this 6 times in a row, you are mad.
I mean, it's just a thing that I can idly play in the background. Like, I just want something
It's a
visual
chill
to be
game.
happening.
Yeah,
At some point, it's just a question if one should do it just for fun projects. Yeah, I mean, and that's valuable too. Like, but what I consider my just for fun, like that's going to be me playing something. Like, if I do something just for fun, it's going to be me playing Into the Breach. If I do something that is development oriented, it's either working on a game or working on a auto hotkey automation. Like, I still find the practice of programming fun, even though game design is the thing that I prefer to do. I like solving problems, right? So that's
yeah,
this came up on an earlier interview today, but I much prefer to spend my time solving problems that feel like they better my life once I figure out the solution, rather than
yeah,
I just like, you can never get me to play something like a Sudoku because the problem is so arbitrary and there was no thought or effort put into the creation of the puzzle.
yeah. I was actually on a stream yesterday. And we were talking about this with Sudoku puzzles, and it's really interesting because it's kind of like with a lot of pushers that are top down. It's very much kind of like a lot of time the solutions are already there, but then it's about moving the blocks around. And if you press wrong input, you then have to restart. And I
Yeah.
think also it's kind of solidified itself as a genre.
Yeah,
So I think it's
Sokoban.
more of a niche. It should really be a niche because I think a lot of people do creative things with it. But I do see it a little bit too much these days in game jams, and I feel like there's a load of cool other puzzle ideas you could do that are similar to Sokoban, but then also, you can put your own thing on it and, really kind of make it your own. And Sokoban's a great game, of course, I love it, but, there's only so much you can take, as they say, in terms of ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think they, if I don't wrap things up at some point, we're just going to keep talking forever and ever. And as much as I'd enjoy that, I do
Yeah,
have a few other people who've patiently been waiting for their games to be played. So
yeah, no, I might have talked a bit too much.
that's fine. That's fine. Alfie,
Yeah,
thank you
I've
so
got
much for
food on the
joining me
way.
on the stream. It's been a fantastic conversation.
It's
And
been a pleasure, really.
yeah, I'm looking forward to the next time that you come back.
No, yeah, I really appreciate it. I'll keep you followed if you're live, and I'm not doing anything and not watching anyone, and I'll pop by and I'll see how you're doing, man. So I'll appreciate that, and thank you for having me on.
Thanks a lot. All right, enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you can take some time to rest and recover.
Yeah, I hope so too.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, bye
Bye
for
bye.
now.
Bye bye.